Hello,
Hi,
everybody.
everybody.
What's up? As you see, we have a different angle in the camera, but I hope this is the least of worries. And now that you can hear us, okay, we're running a bit late, almost 14 minutes into it, but hopefully everything will work. What's up, Dan?
Great.
Okay. Okay, let's just do a recap of what we've spoke so far. Last lesson, we've learned about the general structure of reality in terms of the name Havaya and how the worlds relate to it and how the lights relate to it, and then made this nice table in which we've seen how everything relates to it. And also, maybe I'll draw this. This is nice. Okay. So if we're talking about the general, let's do this model of the three arrows so we'll know where we are. So if we're talking about the moment of creation, and then we have the descending of the worlds, and then development in our world. This is not nice. And then we can talk about ascending from our world upwards. So if in the first lesson we've talked about what happens here and how the four phases of direct light came to be. Later on, what Barson referred to is that against this structure of Havaya, how will I do it shortly? Let's do it like this. So against the structure of the four letters of the name of Havaya, then we have the whole structures of the world. So we'll have Adam Kadmon, Atzilut, Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya. And just like we talked how the vessel is being created in the initial state in the world of Ein Sof, here, if you remember, we talked about it, that first there is the thought, then the light creates the vessel, then the vessel wants to be like the light, then it receives in order to bestow, and then it decides to receive everything. So all of this process is what happens here. So in a parallel way, like copy paste, but on a different resolution, Palace One described how what he called the soul, or the vessel and the light, descended through all of this structure until what we call our world, this world. So I hope you remember that. We'll read over it just quickly, all the items, but first of all, let's see if we have questions about that. So please, if you have questions, please ask, and then we'll start the lesson.
Quick question. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Adam Kadmon and Abia, are they following the formation of Malchut, or are they happen in parallel with the four phases of light? Just want to get that straight. Thank you.
Okay, this is a good question. Are they happening in parallel, or are they following? So again, to talk in parallel or following, you actually ask about the concept of time, meaning is this process happens simultaneously, or is it cause and effect in a sequence kind of way? So in Kabbalah, we don't talk about time because there is no time. We talk we do talk about a sequence of action and cause and action. No, how do you call it?
Cause and effect.
Cause and effect, like a series of action, like a chain of action. And so in this term, yes, we're talking about a chain of actions, meaning all these axes that goes from infinity to our world is like a chain of cause and effect, like a sequence of actions that one follows the other, on one hand. On the other hand, what is very important to remember is that we're talking about, you can imagine it as a reality of information. So all the layers of information exist. Let's say like in the genes, or I don't know how to imagine that. So when we talk about it, about these actions or this information coming to be, it is because this is how the creature reveals it. So never forget that in the end, we are talking not about some theoretical reality. We're talking about a Kabbalist that used to be like an animal in our world, walking on two, having the point in the heart awakening him above his egoistic desires. What do I refer to as an animal? As an animal, I refer to that he was locked in a perception of reality of five senses, like a box that is very limited to egoistic perception. This is called the reality of our world. And once he had this point in the heart, he started developing it. And he, in a chain of cause and effect, he rose up. What does it mean to rise up in the worlds? It means to be more sensitive to a reality that is more unified, more connected. And then he is, from the point that he achieves it, he describes how reality came to be. But you cannot really talk about only one way axis. Why is this important? Because when you need to understand that every division we do to reality is artificial division according to what we want to measure at that moment. Reality is a whole. Every moment is infinity on its own. And it really depends on on our limitations, how limited we are to perceive only a certain aspect of it. Think of it like this. Let's take the example of layers that we've talked about in the beginning of this course in our world. So in the example of the layers, we talked about it that you have like inanimate. So we have inanimate parts. These inanimate parts somehow come to be in a connection, or what we call in our world some kind of synergy, and they create a cell. This cell starts to have a phenomenon of life. But this cell acts as a part on this layer towards, let's say, a tissue or an organ, okay? And this organ or tissue also acts as a part towards something that would be called a body, and that has some kind of consciousness. So this synergy on a higher level creates this consciousness or this effect of awareness. And then these bodies also act as parts towards a higher synergy that you can call human society, or what in Kabbalah you can later on talk about in a true connection of points in the hearts about divinity or the concept of creator or God. So these layers, it's like a pyramid of layers, yes? But this, and now I describe it like created from bottom up, but this is false. It wasn't created from bottom up, because you cannot talk about a cell without saying that there is some kind of tissue or organ that shapes the interaction between the cells or gives some kind of feedback. You cannot talk about an organ at all, about the functionality of an organ, without talking about the concept of a body. You cannot talk about a body or consciousness without talking about a creature that is part of a human society, because if it would grow up in a jungle, it wouldn't have the same attributes, okay? So wanting to say that you have some kind of feedback between the layers, and that each layer doesn't stand on its own, and it's not really like created from bottom up or from above downward or from top bottom. It really is in a constant dialogue, or it all exists. This is very similar to what we talk about in physics when we talk about that all the universe, even the corporeal universe, is like a wave function, and or we talk about that all the reality is in superposition, meaning you have all the positions in a certain reality that coexist, and only the observer doing the observation is causing the reality to collapse. Okay, so in physics we say it's collapsing into a certain state. So nothing collapses. It's just the observation forces in its limitation a certain position from the superposition. Okay, in quantum physics, in quantum mechanics, it's a very profound concept. Okay, so wanting to say that on one hand we're talking about cause and effect of a sequence, because this is how we want to describe it right now, but know that reality is a whole, and the only thing that prevents us from now sensing our reality as infinity or Ak or Atzilut or Bria or this world is our limitation of vessels, meaning our limitation of perception. So I hope now you're not more confused than you were before, and I hope I answered your question.
On one hand you have, on the other hand, is Tzimtzum Aleph the cause and Adam Kadmon the effect, or no?
I don't know, because we haven't talked about Tzimtzum Aleph yet in this course, okay? So let's stick with the material. More questions about what we have talked about so far. Not advanced questions, just from what we talked so far. Okay, so everything is good, everybody's feeling okay. We have no feedback in the Zoom. Okay, please nod your heads at least, so we know that we're good. Okay, we're good. Okay, so let's start today's lesson. So let's go over from item 6 and then run on it, and then we'll start the lesson from what we started.
Item 6 at the top of page 569. These 4 above discernments are the 10 sfirot discerned in each emanation and each creature in the whole, which are the 4 worlds, and even the smallest part in reality. Pchina Aleph is called Chokhmah, or the world of Atzilut. Pchina Bet is called Binah, or the world of Bria. Pchina Gimel is called Tiferet, or the world of Yetzirah, and Pchina Dalet is called Malchut, or the world of Asiyah.
Yes, please pay attention to the reference between the Pchina, which is like the prototype, which is what was in the 4 phases of the 8th light, and what is created on the level of the whole. Okay, so again, we have the level of the particle and the level of the whole. They are similar. There is self-resemblance, or I don't know how you want to call it. This is very important in the terms of quality. So the quality of the world of Asiyah is like the quality of the Malchut. The quality of the world of Atzilut is similar to the quality of Pchina Aleph, etc. Okay? We'll see it later on.
Let us explain the 4 discernments applied in each soul. When the soul exits from Ein Sof and comes to the world of Atzilut, it is Pchina Aleph of the soul. Yet there it is still not discerned by that name, since the name Neshama, soul, implies that there is some difference between her and the emanator, that through that difference she departed Ein Sof and has been revealed in its own authority. But as long as it does not form a Kli, there is nothing to distinguish it from his essence, from Atzmuto, to merit her own name. You already know that Pchina Aleph of the Kli is not considered a Kli at all, but is entirely annulled in the light. And this is the meaning of what is said about the world of Atzilut, that is complete godliness, as in he, his life, and his self are one. Even the souls of all living creatures, while traversing the world of Atzilut, are still considered attached to Atzmuto.
Okay, so first thing, this is the terms of the quality we've talked about. Just like Pchina Aleph is nullified like a torch towards a how do you call
Candle
it? Like a candle compared to a torch, that it doesn't discern itself to being independent or separated from the creator, from the light, from the root in four phases of direct light. The same thing happens if you're in the world of Atzilut, meaning if you're in the world of Atzilut, this is a state in which you don't you don't
discern.
You don't discern yourself from the creator. You are part of it. You are in his kingdom. Okay, this is what it's called Atzilut, being in his territory. Okay, in Hebrew it means to be etzlo, to be in his property. In the US, you'll probably be shot or something, no? If you're getting to somebody else.
Yeah, it's trespassing.
Yeah, trespassing.
That's
okay, so in Kabbalah, it's a good thing.
Penalty
Okay,
for that is death.
You're nullifying yourself, and then you're going into being in adhesion with him. Okay. Second thing, very important. Know and remember that we don't study in order to understand. We study in order to open the desire to be in that. This is very good because we want to emerge into this material. We want to be like in the story. We want to be like to litmoses, how do you say?
Dissolve?
Yeah, to dissolve inside of what Bala Sulam tries to talk about. Okay, this is how the upper light works in us, creating us these new vessels, these new sensations, these new connections, doesn't matter, in the neurons, in the senses, between us, doesn't matter how you want to call it. It's all about connections, just like we talked in the pyramid, even in our world. Every higher level is a synergy is a connection of our lower level, okay? So don't resist it. Just let it work on you, wish for it to happen, okay? This is very important. This is how Kabbalah works. Okay, item 7.
Item 7, page 569. This above-mentioned Pchina Bet rules in the world of Bria, the kli of the desire to bestow. Hence, when the soul cascades into the world of Bria and achieves the kli that exists there, it's considered a neshama. This means that it has already separated from his essence and merits its own name, neshama. Yet this is a very pure and fine kli, as it is in equivalence of form with the emanator. For this reason, it's considered complete spirituality.
Okay, just like we saw in the second phase that the vessels overcomes for the first time his initial nature. He wants to bestow, to be in resemblance to the Creator. So what happens in it? It is called an neshama in the world of Bria. On one hand, it becomes independent for the first time from the Creator. On the other hand, it is in similarity of form. By the way, it's Independence Day, no? In the US, it's like a holiday today, no?
Today is the 4th of July, yes.
Yeah, so we should have started this lesson. Okay, happy 4th of July, everybody. Sorry.
Everybody in the US.
Yeah, everybody in the US. It's like, wow, great. Happy Independence Day, or whatever you say in the US. Okay, so actually everybody's going to do barbecue later today, no?
Yes, that is a thing that we share actually with Israel.
For you, it's evening, or it's... maybe they're on the 3rd yet, no?
They're still on the 3rd, but it's the eve.
So tomorrow, happy.
Okay,
Eve. So we shouldn't worry. Okay, it's tomorrow. Okay, so we'll say in the end.
You'll have a great day tomorrow.
Okay, item 8.
Item 8, the above-mentioned Pchina Gimel, going from the 4th of July to...
Well, it's good. It's about connection.
The world of Yitzhak.
It's also, it's the same thing. It's a reason for connection. It's good. I've just read the post before I went to sleep of Michael Lightman about the 4th of July. And he really summarized it nicely about it was like a letter of greetings for the US and for the American friends. And he talked nicely how, just like America has been some kind of torch before the camp so far in so many things, now they have a chance to realize the hatred they have in the nation, the opposition, like how do you call it?
Division,
the extreme, the polarity, the extremist going, and from that they can rise to a new level of connection. Well, anyway.
Item 8.
Item 8.
The above-mentioned Pchina Gimel rules in the world of Yetzirah, containing a little bit of the form of the will to receive. Hence, when the soul cascades into the world of Yetzirah and achieves that kli, it exits the spirituality of the neshama and is called ruach. This is because here its kli is already mingled with some aviyut, meaning the little bit of will to receive within it. Yet it is still considered spiritual because this measure of aviyut is insufficient to completely separate it from his essence, atzmuto, and merit the name guf, which stands in its own right.
Okay, so again, just like in the 4 phases of direct light, the 3rd phase, still it's not the end of the process. It's still not the will to receive in its complete desirable shape, meaning completely opposite to the creator, having the strongest, cruelest desire, but already it has more of you than Pchina Bet. And if you remember also the principle of the light going in, going out, the extension and departure of the light, departure of the light, extension of departure of the light creates the vessel. So still here, now the light only returns to the vessel, and the vessel will come too long for it on its own. This will happen in phase 4 in Malchut. But this means again that in the world of Yetzirah, this is how you work. This is the flavor of this world, okay? This is very hard to talk about, but it's like again, it's like a flavors. It's like colors. We try to talk about it. It's like colors. It's like our senses. So you know in your sense when you're talking about seeing something or smelling something or touching something, it's a different observations. So these worlds, these general states, context in which you exist or in which you reveal your reality, is very similar to this prototype of the 4 phases of direct light. And also,
could I ask a question?
Yeah, just a second,
Okay.
just to finish the sentence. Also, in every state, in the smallest spiritual state, you can already discern these different levels, these different flavors, different channels of reception of reality. Yes, please.
Yeah, my question is up towards 6 there, it says, let us explain the 4 discernments applied to each soul. What does it mean by soul? I mean, what is a soul?
This is a very good question. This is a very good question about terminology. As you've seen, he's not being accurate here. He's talking about Atzilut.
Precise.
Precise. He's not being precise here. That talking about Atzilut, he doesn't call it a soul. So a soul is a very slippery concept. Let us talk in general, in the most simplistic way about the soul, and then let us talk about, because he will talk about it later on in Pticha, and then let us talk about what is a soul here and more exact how he refers to it. So a soul. Again, a soul.
In the beginning, the Creator created the will to receive.
I'm waiting for it to come, you know. So, how should we explain it? So just like we have the infrastructure that allow the phenomena to reveal itself. So let's talk about a network. So you have like the infrastructure of the network. So you have nodes and you have, what do you call these things that connect the nodes?
Edges?
How?
Edges?
Edges? Yes, so it's nodes and edges.
In a graph, yeah, it's vertices and edges.
Okay, good. So you have nodes and edges. Okay, so let's say if you're talking about human society, so a person is a node and you have the connection, and then you have something that is called a society. And then it can have, and then you can talk about society with a culture, with things that like emerge from the net, that ride on the infrastructure, okay? So if you talk about traders or, I don't know, consumers and suppliers. So each one of them is like a node. You have the edges, and you have something that is called the economy that rides upon it. If you talk about neurons, so you have each neuron as a node, and you have the connection between them. You have something that called a consciousness, okay? If we talk about these cells, so you have the cells as a node, and you have these edges, and then you can talk about something that is called life, which is a phenomenon that rides above it. Yeah, so you have like the network, and you have like the metadata. You have like the higher level that rides on the infrastructure. So the soul, so talking in a simple way, a soul is the infrastructure, like the divinity, like the Shekhinah, and the metadata that rides upon it is called the creator, okay? Or Boré, or the upper light, okay? So a soul is like a vessel, like a sense, like something to reveal, and then you have the light.
Mm-hmm.
So this is in a very simple way, okay? Now, because we have a similarity, a resemblance, a self-resemblance that we'll talk about later on in creation, meaning that each particle has the general structure of the whole, okay? Think of it like each cell in your body, I can take the cell and duplicate another John, because it has the whole information of John, okay? Or if you talk about human society, so you can say that each person that grew up to be part of society has the whole culture, education in some form embedded in him already. It's part of him, okay? The language, whatever. So you have a similarity you have a resemblance of form between the structure and the whole. So you can talk about it that if you talk about the vessel being broken into nodes, so you can say that each node has something of the general structure. So you can talk about it that each of us has like a soul, or has some kind of a seed to develop a soul, okay? Or having in a potential being part of the soul. And what does it mean to be a part? What departs it from the general structure? It's a completely deep question. It's very complicated in modern science, in many things, like in physics, in consciousness, very complicated. Kabbalah will say that it's the will to receive that cuts us from the whole. But again, he'll talk about it later on in Preface. It's a very deep discussion. But let's say that you can say also that each one of us has a soul, okay? This is the simple explanation. Now, what does he refer to here, okay? Which is more a deeper concept. So just like then, Joe last time, if we're talking about Ak, Atzilut, Bria, Yetzirah, and the Siyah, so you have the will to receive, that in Ak doesn't exist, it's like a point. In Atzilut, it's still a part of the creator. In Bria, it becomes more independent. In Yetzirah, even more. In Asiyah, it's the most, it's the biggest will to receive. And then you have the light that is being received there, okay? Maybe it's not the best way to explain.
See, the question I was kind of asking here is this whole process, does that represent an individual, or is this the whole system that goes through this process?
That's what I'm trying to say. It's both. It's always both. You cannot. What is an individual? If you understood what I want to, what we've said so far in this course, you need to understand by now that talking about individual or talking about a whole, it depends on the resolution of the investigation. Okay, what resolution are you talking about? Okay, because each whole is also an individual of a higher level. You see what I want to say? And if you want to talk about a person as a human being, it doesn't exist here yet. It will come later to be in this world, okay?
Okay, I think I need to learn a little more.
So let's do it in a simple way, okay? Let's do it in a simple way. What he refers to here as a neshama, okay, as a soul, he refers to the lights that starts from Bria and downwards, okay? Why is that? Because in order to be, because he adds here another concept that being a soul is already to be somehow independent from the creator, and this doesn't happen before Bria, okay? This is what he's saying here, okay? Now, let's leave Pticha aside. If you're talking about John and Eran and Dan, and you're asking what is a soul, so you can say either that a soul is what we reveal when we connect. It's the common soul of us, the soul of Adam Rishon. This is the vessel in which we reveal the Creator together. There is no individual egoistic person in that. There is also only the connection between us. Or you can talk about the soul of Eran, but the soul of Eran in spirituality doesn't exist as long as he's in a corporal body. It's only a potential of a soul. And what we call, what this corporal body has is some kind of life force, life energy.
Okay, I kind of got an idea. I just stepped in on this class. I don't know what class are we in following.
Okay, so welcome. So first of all, you're very brave to ask a question on the third floor lesson and diving on this concept that we go over. But it's very recommended to start from the beginning of the course. We're still in the beginning, so it will be easier for you if you can take the time to watch the previous lessons, the previous 3 lessons.
Yeah, I think we're only four in, maybe. This is lesson 4, right?
Yeah, this is lesson 4. So we have like 3 lessons. If you can watch them, it will really help you to follow along with us, and like just try to feel. Okay, if you don't understand, just throw it and try to feel. In the end, it's about the internal deficiency that operates.
Okay, I did. That's what I did at work for a living. I just went with the flow. So, all right, thank you.
Okay, good. More questions about this, or we can go on? Okay, so let's continue. So we're in item 8, yeah?
So we'll continue reading and some
item
explanations if you want to. If anybody has questions kind of in the middle of the reading, feel free to write maybe in the chat, I have a question or something, and then we'll pause at some given point for questions. So item 9, we're continuing with on the bottom of page 569. Bchina Dalet. Bchina Dalet rules in the world of Asiya, which is the complete kli of the great will to receive. Hence, it obtains a completely separated and distinguished guf from atzmuto, which stands in its own right. The light in it is called nefesh, from the Hebrew word rest, indicating that the light is motionless in and of itself. And you should know that there is not a single element in reality that is not comprised of the whole Abiyah.
Okay, so again, you see that you can find in each state, in each object, all the structure itself in like a mini model. Again, this is again the resemblance of form kind of thing we talked about. In Kabbalah, we call it klal v'prat shavim, which is the general and the particle.
Particular?
Yeah, the general and the particular are similar. I don't like it in English. In English, it sounds very alienated. In Hebrew, actually, klal v'prat shavim makes you feel more closer to that, because what it means that
it's like the individual in the group, maybe.
Yeah, the whole and the part are equal, meaning it doesn't matter which level you take. In the end, it's the same information coming to be in a different layer, in a different resolution of reality. I think that like before the last Congress in North America, Rav Lightman just gave a very good example for the American students. So he said, look on reality like a Big Mac. So you have these layers, and they're all part of this thing. And when you take the bite, you taste all the flavors together. It's getting kind of mixed, okay? So you can have a bite more of the hamburger and more. I'm sorry for the vegetarians and stuff, but more of the hamburger, more of the lettuce, more. But in the end, it's in each one, it's part of the whole. Okay. 10. Item 10.
Item 10, page 570.
Yeah, like a hologram. Yeah, Ben is asking like a hologram. Yeah, a hologram is good. I think in science, a more exact term would be holarchy. Yeah, holarchy you say in English? Holarchia. How would you say it?
What is that?
This is the term that wants to say that. Let me check how you say it in English. In Hebrew, it's called holarchy, which it's a concept that talks about. It's a concept that talks about. It's from physics, and it talks about that each part is what they call holon, which wanting to say that each part is both a whole and part of a whole. Okay, so it's a whole on its own and part of a bigger whole. I cannot do Wikipedia translation here in the mobile, so I don't know how I check for English.
It's at the top right here.
How do you do it in mobile? Here?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I never. Yeah, holarchy, right?
Is it holy?
No. It's yeah. How do you pronounce it?
I don't know. I've never seen that word.
But how do you pronounce it?
Holarchy?
Yeah, holarchy. Okay, you can Google that in Wikipedia. Holarchy. Okay, so
Problem is, it doesn't really add
no,
anything to the conversation because nobody knows what a hologram is. Nobody knows what holarchy is.
just think of it that it's that each part is a part and it's a whole of something bigger. Okay, I don't think it's so complicated to understand that it's like it just depends on the resolution. Okay, so each cell has all the information of the body, but it's also a part of the body, okay? And each body has all the information of like the general environment or the general society, but it's a part of it, okay? And that's how it works actually in nature. And each small society, let's talk about a family. So a family would be some kind of resemblance to the values and to the language and what happens in the general society. So it's a whole on its own, and it's part of a bigger part. I don't know. I hope it will be clearer down the road.
Item 10, top of page 570. Thus you'll find that this nefesh, the light of life that is dressed in the guf, extends from atzmuto, existence from existence. As it traverses the four worlds, Abiyah, it becomes increasingly distant from the light of his face until it comes to its designated kli called guf. This is considered that the kli has completed its desirable form. And even if the light in it has so diminished that its origin becomes undetectable through engagement in Torah and mitzvot, in order to bestow contentment upon the Maker, one purifies one's kli called guf until it becomes worthy of receiving the great abundance in the full measure included in the thought of creation when he created it. And this is what Rabbi Hanania meant by the Creator wished to cleanse Israel, hence he has given them plentiful Torah and mitzvot.
Okay, so again, a lot of terminology and concepts that he talked about in the previous parts, but what he wants to say is that in the lowest level, we call the vessel or the creature guf or body, and the light we call nefesh or the life of life. And the lowest level of revelation of reality is our world, in which we cannot discern, we cannot identify the source of the light or the light at all. Okay, this is called complete concealment. This is called this world, in which the Creator is completely lacking. And he's saying that by dealing with Torah and mitzvot, and we interpreted that last lesson, that mitzvot are the actions that one does in order to become similar to the whole, and the Torah is the light that operates and corrects him or her, okay? And the desire that wants to attain the Creator is called Israel, Yashar Kel, and the action of becoming similar to the light is called purification, and this is what he's talking about here. Yeah, this is important stuff, because what actually we're saying here I don't know. I don't want to overload you, but these are important stuff. In the end, we need to understand that although we exist in one layer of resolution of reality that we perceive right now, okay? We cannot understand that layer completely without understanding a higher layer or a lower layer, because they interact, they are connected, okay? Just like we couldn't completely understand mechanical physics, like Newton physics, we understood most of the world by Newton physics, but there were phenomena that until we revealed a deeper level of physics, we couldn't explain, okay? So it's like certain layer of the general picture. And then there is a question, how do we investigate reality? How we go and research who we are, what is reality? Are we looking on reality as a whole? Are we coming from the level of the whole and then try to understand the parts? Or do we start to try to understand the parts and then from it understand the whole? This is a very deep stuff. Like you can see it even in the Greeks. They had this askolot, like schools of thought, that part of them talked about seeing the reality as a whole, not changing thing, all change is illusion. And there was the atomist school that later Plato came from it. And this thing continues until today in regular society. If you talk about sociology, sociology, if you want to investigate how society works or operates, and you want to talk about social order, there are theories that will talk about the whole. Functionalism talk that each part is each person is a function out of the general part. The state is like a part, like an organism. The nation is like an organism. And there are methods that will say, no, hey, we're just individuals, and in the interaction between us, we create these wholes. We create a family, we create a culture, and it's all about the individual, okay? When we come to investigate ourselves and understanding ourselves, it's much more complicated because we feel only in the individual level. So if you take, for example, classic psychology, it tells you if you want to understand who you are, investigate your characters, your attribution, your thoughts, your traumas, whatever, I don't know what. And then if you want to make better of yourself, just try to maximize who you are. All this self-help, I don't know, happiness psychology, although they start talking about connection, but still it's about you. Kabbalah is very strict on this, very sharp on it. It says that if you want to understand who you are, you must come from the level of the whole. You must try to understand who the creator is. What is this law? What is this field that you are part of it? What is the whole that you are part of it? You can never understand yourself. And if you work only in the individual level, in the particle level of yourself, you'll just reveal more nifradut, like
separation,
more separation, more isolation. And because you are a sensing organ, this will lead you to more pain, because separation is felt by us as pain, as being cut from the whole. So this is why this is important stuff in the end, in the practical way. If you forget anything from this lesson, just remember that in order to realize oneself, to rise to a higher level, to purify yourself, what does it mean? It means to reveal a synergy in a higher level, revealing in what way you are connected or part of a higher whole. This is a development. A spiritual development is to relate the self to a higher existence. This is in some what happens in the corporal world. When you have some kind of protein body comes out of another protein body, then you have some kind of psychological change. Then suddenly you become a mother or a father. So you have kind of different perception change in the terms that you're not relating yourself only to the individual body, but to some concept that is called a family. Now we have the World Cup, the Mondial, the World Cup games, okay? So being in a crowd with 10,000 people in somehow just like in fascist regimes, or just like in going to Tomorrowland and dancing with drugs with everybody in a huge rave of 50,000 people, or going to a concert in a philharmonic orchestra. It's about trying to be part of the whole, okay? Actually, in many terms, what we do in culture, when we try to live movies, stories, when we try to live other people's lives, when we go out to nature or on a trip, we try to connect somehow to a bigger whole, because there is a part of us that yearns for that. Okay, so that was like a footnote.
You want a question?
Yeah, you have questions about it?
Sheridan has a question.
Okay.
She asks, is Nefesh still spiritual?
Yeah, Nefesh is still spiritual in the sense that I sense that I don't sense. This is very important. I sense that there is one force that I get some kind of nutrition from. I'm just like an embryo in this field of energy, of light, in this general whole, but I'm an embryo. I'm unconscious. I cannot stand on my own. If the nutrition from the upper one, the internal nutrition from the upper one doesn't come, I fall, I die. It's like a abortion. Yeah, it's called abortion in spirituality. So I sense that I'm part of a spiritual reality, that it's not corporal reality. Miscarriage, okay. It's something higher than the regular reality. This is called nefesh, but it's nefisha. In Hebrew, it's like still. It doesn't move. It doesn't change. I sense no movement, only this constant warm state of being part of something higher. Actually, this level of nefesh, Kabbalists in some places say that there are different spiritual methods in our world that work about complete nullification of the self, about complete itnazut, to be a nazir, like being a monk. In Hebrew, to be a monk means to refine yourself from everything. Refine, like restrict, abstain yourself from everything. So many spiritual methods in humanity during its process came to the realization also that all of the suffering comes from the ego, from the sensation of separation. And if you nullify this sense of separation, if you abstain yourself from corporal pleasures, if you become nothing, like a zero in our world, in somehow you will feel something bigger than yourself. Also religions work on that in many senses. And Kabbalists say that is true. But the only level that you can attain is some kind of the minimal attainment of this nefesh, because you don't have an ego, you don't have anything to overcome, you don't have a vessel. And Kabbalah is different in the term that you must develop your uniqueness, you must develop your ego, and on top of that, you must attain the whole, or reveal the connection to the whole. These are a lot of words. I just want to give you some flavor, because in the end, well, when you move into a Rav Lightman's lesson, you will only hear the word connection. Just let's feel connected. Let's talk about the connection. And it takes sometimes a lot of years to understand how deep this word is and how it contains inside of it all the essence of a higher resolution of reality, of changing the consciousness, the state of life. Okay. Let's move forward.
11?
Yeah, 11. This is where we stopped last time, I think.
Right. That's good. Item 11, page 570. Now you can understand the real difference between spirituality and corporeality. Anything that contains a complete desire to receive in all its aspects, which is P'china Dalet, is considered corporeal. This is what exists in all the elements of reality before us in this world. Conversely, anything above this great measure of desire to receive is considered spirituality. And these are the world's abiyah. Above this world, and the whole reality within them. Now you can see that the whole issue of ascents and descents described in the upper worlds does not relate to an imaginary place, but only to the four discernments in the will to receive. The farther it is from B'china Dalet, the higher it is considered to be. And conversely, the closer it is to B'china Dalet, the lower it is considered to be.
Okay, so this is very important. What does it mean that we talk about corporal reality, spiritual reality, when we talk about reality of matter and we talk about reality of forces, okay? So in the end, it's about the will to receive or the will to bestow, meaning everything that exists, wanting to say anything that we reveal when we are constrained by our will to receive, when we are cut off the general whole, from the higher level, the higher layer that we talked about in the perception of reality, is called corporal, is called our world. And also this matter, what we imagine as matter, that we know also from today from physics, that if you go deep inside, it's not matter, it's like waves of energy, or I don't know how you want to, or strings, or I don't know how you want to imagine that. But this matter also, even in, why am I giving this example of physics? To show you that even in the corporal world, it's all about resolution. Because if you go into deeper resolution, deeper sensitivity of what is the corporal reality, even there you start to understand, to reveal that there is no matter, there, that everything is one in some sort of, everything connected in some way. So even in corporality, you reveal that in that resolution. But what he wants to say, everything is in the will to receive is corporality, is our world. Everything that is above the will to receive. What does it mean to be above the will to receive? This is a huge study in Kabbalah. But to the extent that a person can step, how do you say, like step down, like, you know, like lidroch. In Hebrew, when you want to say that you move forward with your step and you also like pressing something, like pressing grapes or pressing somebody else, you know. So it's the same word. So when
step on.
Yeah, step on. So when you want to step on or step forward, so what are you stepping for? What are you stepping on? You're stepping on the separation between what you feel and what is reality. And what is this separation? This separation is the sense of self. The sense of the desire to feel oneself. The algorithm in which I sense that me, meaning the corporal body, this protein body, is the center of reality, is the reason for reality, meaning that every thought, every action comes from it. That it's the goal of reality, meaning that all of reality is meant to fulfill it, to give it pleasure. This is the force that cuts us from the whole. We'll talk about it later on in Pticha. But stepping upon it, stepping on it, and connecting, and this is what we do in Kabbalah with others, that in somewhat I bring myself closer to others, like stepping out of myself and making the connection with the others, the center of my reality, the purpose of my reality. Wanting to do that, this is called a prayer. This is already a tendency to a higher layer of reality, to a higher synergy. And when we attain that, we'll reveal that this is also like an egoistic force compared to a higher layer. And that's the ladder, that's how we climb. Every time connecting, bringing more separation into connection. Wow, I hope everybody's okay. Like, I see your faces and I don't know. Like okay, let's hope that it's okay. Okay, you want to add to that? I don't know. Okay, let's move forward. Let's start today's lesson.
Item 12. We should understand that the essence of the creature and of creation as a whole is only the will to receive. Anything beyond it is not a part of creation, but extends from his essence, atzmuto, by way of existence from existence. Thus, why do we discern this will to receive as aviyut and turbidity? And we are commanded to cleanse it through Torah and mitzvot, to the point that without it we will not achieve the sublime goal of the thought of creation.
Yeah, this is a good question. It's an important question. It's going to relate to it in the next items, like 10 items or so. Even, no, less than 10 items. But what is the question here? Yeah, maybe like 4 items. What is the question here? If we're saying that this force of self-reception, of receiving this sense of self, this egoism, doesn't matter how you call it, is the whole essence of the creature. Meaning without it, there was no creature. If there was no force, in this term you need to understand the will to receive, or the ego, is a good thing. It keeps the uniqueness of each one of us. If there was no will to receive, there was just the whole. Okay? For example, we know in consciousness that my brain has mirror neurons. So I hope everybody heard about mirror neurons.
No.
No, okay. So mirror neurons are neurons in our brain that allows us to
empathize.
Empathize, thank you. To empathize, how do you see Dan knows already which words I don't know before I can say which word I don't know. So these mirror neurons allow us to empathize with others. So my brain looks on somebody else's body in a movie or in a street, and when he sees a spider walking on it and he's going like you, or when he sees him like somebody else doing something good or bad to it, it's like immediately identifies with it or empathize with it. So we know from science that, or from monkeys and also from humans, that our brain doesn't really separate his body, my body, other person's body. It can completely identify with other bodies as with its own body. And then comes to be a question, so what determines to the brain, to my consciousness, that this is me, that I am here, that if something happened to Dan's body, I don't care so much. I can, if he's stabbed with a knife, I can go like, ugh, but beside that, I don't really care, he can die. And maybe I'll call 911 or something, yeah? Maybe I won't. So what allows me this understanding of limits? So science revealed that in our skin, there are like sensory cells that transmit to the brain, here I am, okay? So this is like a force that limits, cuts the self from the general reality, or from being a whole. So in the same sense, this will to receive cuts us, because if there was no will to receive, we couldn't have talked about this particle. We couldn't have talked about Joe or Paul or I don't know, or Marina or Svetlana or whatever. There would be no uniqueness. There would be only one whole. Okay. So this will to receive is something very important, because without that there won't be a creature. So if it's so important, why do we call it achirut? I didn't grab the word. Yeah, how did he translate achirut?
Turbidity?
Yeah.
You mean like dirty, like cloudiness?
Yeah, but what's the word?
Turbidity.
Turbidity. I've never heard of that word.
Sometimes the translation is like taken very...
No, we've taught together this article 2 times before and I don't remember.
I think it's used just once.
Yeah? Turbidity.
It's like cloudiness or impurity.
Yeah. It's like the juice of the garbage of, when you take out the garbage and you have these liquids in the garbage. So this is how Kabbalists refer to the will to receive, okay? So the question, so turbidity is like a nice word. The question is, if this is the whole essence of the creature, that beside it, everything is only the upper light, existence, from the creator, so why do we refer to this will to receive as something so bad? Okay? So in our world, we talk about morality, you know, that we need to be nice to one another. And then if you're an egoist, it's not nice. Although it's a big question, you know, me as a father, how do I educate my kids? Do I educate them to be nice, to smile, to be more moral? And then maybe somebody would, okay, the only English word that comes to my head is not nice, I won't say it. In English we have, in Hebrew I would say it, but in English we have politically correct,
Standards.
yeah, we have standards. So if I'll teach my kid to be nice and then somebody comes in the street and manipulate him, I don't know how to say it nicely, okay, or in business or something, so it's a question, why do we educate our kids to be nice, to smile, to be pleasant to the other? If we would educate them to be like animals, to be stronger, to cut everybody on the road, to make all kinds of tricks in business and stuff like that, maybe they'll succeed more in our world, okay? It's a question. Why are we, so in our world, we have this naive feeling that we need to be moral or good, and it's good for us. And although we in business might trick everybody, and we might curse everybody and hate everybody and cut them in the road, and I don't know, do all kinds of unpleasant things to them, still we teach our kids to be nice and sweet and blah, blah, blah. Because we understand somehow in subconsciously that this would lead them to being more happy or being or building a better society than growing up to being in a chaos kind of cannibalistic kind of environment. In Kabbalah, it's unclear. Because Kabbalah can come and say, you know, you have these egoistic desires. It's not you. You're being created with that, yeah? So if you have this gene or a tendency to kill or to steal, you cannot resist it. It's your nature, okay? So if we're talking about nature as nature, you don't come to the animals and you say, you know, the fact that you want to eat somebody else, this is bad. This is what it is. And still Kabbalists come and say the will to receive is bad. Why is that? The reason is because it cuts it from the attainment of the upper light. It's the opposite of the quality of the Creator. But this is the question that is going to ask, and this is what we're going to talk about in the next few lessons. So today we moved one item forward.
The word bad, by the way, or evil, is...
Dan will kill me, by the way.
When we hear it in...
When I teach you, Dan has a certain quota, how many items you need to do in order to finish the article. I don't care. But Dan really...
It's, yeah.
So I hope he's not angry.
This is how we move forward. Yeah. So today we took, I think, 6 steps back and 7 steps forward.
Who cares?
So that's good. No. I mean, it's very. This is how you advance anyway. In Kabbalah, I wanted to say about like the definite, like the word bad or evil. When we say that the will to receive is bad or literally evil, when Kabbalists apply this term, they mean it in a very kind of cold, just like a definition sense. Like it's evil specifically because it doesn't help with the goal of creation. It stands against the Creator. It doesn't go with the goal of creation. And at the end, it just it's like less of a benefit to us.
Yeah, and that's very important what Dan said. Don't look at it in a more kind of human way, but look at it like plus and minus in physics. Okay, so it's two forces that needs to come to a balance somehow. So you have plus and minus. So minus is not bad. It's not even worse than plus.
Mm-hmm. Right. Like normally we would see something bad, we want to get rid of it. This is bad behavior. Let's get rid of it and just maintain and just keep good behavior, because having good behavior is just, you know, a complete upgrade from bad behavior. In Kabbalah, it's different. You need both good and evil, because without the evil, we learn that we can't discern the good. That's why the plus and minus example is perfect here, because you really need both to perform the discernment. Once you perform the discernment, then you can choose good over evil while retaining the evil to have the reflection of the good. So that's it. So we never get rid of things that are bad or things that are evil. For example, the will to receive, like it's our nature. There's nothing you can do about it. We simply build another layer on top of it called good, or similar to the creator, that allows us to perceive the creator on top of the will to receive. It's like the whole benefit of later on in the course we'll learn about like the soul, for example, like the human soul, the soul of Adam and Rishon exists as opposed to all the structure of the worlds and what we'll learn later on as like forces or angels or whatever that don't have this quality that allows us to now finally discern and attain the creator all the way to his full height without perceiving him like an embryo or like an infant in the womb, or
Yeah.
I guess an embryo in the womb.
Yeah, it's like it takes some time to come to realize that when Kabbalists say how creation was made in such a genius, kind of perfect way, in what way it came to be, how the laws and everything connects into one breathing system. It takes some time to start to feel what they actually refer to. Like, it's not even in the corporal meaning that we sometimes see harmony in nature and get excited about it, or sing these laws of physics or whatever and get excited about it. It's something much, much more profound. It's much more deep. Yeah, we have questions. I don't know. I'm not going to do another item. We're going to break a world record and do one item on this.
Bo, did you want to ask a question?
Not so much, just what we were talking about before. It just without every system contains at least two negatives, and so we have these variances that this is the way it was set into motion. There would be no thought of creation without this system, and these systems are these polarities of positive and negative. It was more just checking understanding, I guess.
I would add to that, even though, again, we won't touch base on that in this article, but I'll add to that, but in Kabbalah, you go deeper into that area, that even the plus and the minus, even the plus, what we call now plus, which is the creator, the bestow, what we call the force of love, the light, it's only part of the equation, like part of half of the polarity. And what we'll actually talk about in being resembled to the creator is something deeper. It's called the middle line in Kabbalah. It's something new that will emerge that doesn't exist in the polarity. It's not the plus and it's not the minus. It's a new form, a new quality that connects them both into something that is more than the two. It's different from the two. It's not even more in terms of adding. It's different in quality. It's deeper in quality. But talking about the middle line, it's this is like space, the final frontier. Yeah, it's like in the Enterprise, when they say like the next, it's like it's a quantum leap from where we are at the moment. So at the moment to understand about the plus and the minus, talking about the middle line and this new concept of creator, which is more than the will to bestow, which is more than the light, which is something that already connects the two, that operates above the two. This is actually spirituality. Because even talking about two forces, this is something that you can also talk just like in Python mathematics and physics, or talking about yin and yang in different methods, talking about two different forces. In Western culture, it's very strong, especially in Christianity, that you talk about the evil and the good. When you talk about everything is about the fight of, also in culture, everything is about the good forces against the black forces, the God against the Satan, the good empire against the bad empire. If you don't divide, you know, you see it in American politics, if you don't divide the world, or in Hollywood, if you don't divide the world to goods and bad, you have nothing to do. You know, you're completely disoriented.
I think they're getting better with it though.
Yeah, I don't
It
know.
really used to be like that.
I
but-
think
But now like people are kind
Yeah.
of maturing a little bit, and it's not like good versus.
I think the good thing about Trump is about bringing the world back into good, like Western movies. You know, we have the good people, the bad people, because this is how people are. It's much more easy to perceive reality in that form. It's not so complex. But actually, what spirituality is about is, after discerning the good and the bad, the plus and the minus, is understanding that there is a deeper layer that is called life, or light, or creator, in the true sense of creator, that it's something that connects it all, that has no flavor, that all the colors are, there is no black and white, there is white in the sense that all the colors are part of it. So it's something that holds everything in completeness, in one point, one essence. But this is the next frontier.
I wanted to talk about a term that you used. You said quantum leap, and Iran uses this term pretty often, so I wanted to just say a few words about it. It's much more down to earth than it seems. Quantum leap is like, you know, it seems like this very like abstract concept. All it means, it's really simple. All it means is that you can't be, is that you have degrees and you can't be between the degrees. It's like on a staircase. When you're standing on one stair, let's say, suppose you can only step on one stair at a time. You can only be you can't be in between steps. That's all that it means. It means like a leap is just going from one step to another step. It means that there is no in between. And it means that whatever causes that to take place, you know, like some epiphany or some all of a sudden thing, it's not a gradual ascent, but it's just, that's why it's called the leap, because you kind of like leap into the next degree. That's it.
Yeah.
It's much more down to earth and much simpler than.
Yeah, you can also call it phase transmission or phase change. This is very important what Dan said.
Like like solid to liquid. You know, it's either water or it's ice. There's nothing in between. You can, you know.
This is not easy to understand. What Dan said is very, very deep, because especially in science, until 50 years ago, it was very hard to grasp this concept, because talking about pyramid of layers was very hard for science, because science just wanted to take one layer and let's talk about the determinism in that layer. Let's talk about the strict laws that control that specific layer. And when you start talking about layers or transmission, and then you're going into some kind of metaphysics or a religion maybe, or philosophy. And only in the last 50 years or so, through mathematics, talking about mathematics of chaos, mathematics of complex system, allows us to understand that although we can talk about determined laws that doesn't change, like Dan said, either liquid or fluid. When I'm in the fluid,
solid
or solid. When I'm in the solid, I completely understand the laws of the solid. And when I'm in the fluid, I completely understand the laws of the fluid. And sometimes the change between them is unpredictable, or I cannot really it's like a cut between them, okay? So again, quantum physics allowed a lot of it to understand, also in complex system. If you want to look it up, it's called emergence. We sometimes don't understand how new phenomena, how a new synergy emerges. But when it emerges, we have new laws, new principle in that new level. This is important stuff. Because in Kabbalah, we actually talk about the changes. Because Kabbalah can explain this world very good. So you're talking about this world. So you have the desires, and each desire, you go after your desire, and everybody's egoistic, and you want some kind of connection. And Kabbalah can explain this world very good. And it can explain spirituality very good, just like we'll see later on with the worlds and patzufim and sfirot, like mechanics, pa, 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 pa. Now, when you talk about how to move from one another, how I move from corporality to spirituality, then you start to talk about like weird things, nullifying yourself, going above my reason, determining that everything I see in my brain, I need to nullify it. So what? So I was investigating all this reality and understanding all this thought, and now I need to see that everything I see and hear is wrong. So what am I doing? And now I need to go with a higher brain than mine. Like what? This is like completely unscientific. This is like completely against reason. Because going from one phase to another is like an embryo. Like an embryo needs to go upside down. Everything that he understood in his head, everything that he needs to say, no, it's not. And then it goes out. So, and in spirituality, it's every time like this. You will be in complete control over your current state. You will understand everything to the smallest nuance, how everything is connected and operates. But if you want to move to a higher level, you'll need to step upon yourself about this separation, about everything you know, everything you feel. Go into complete confusion, lose everything. Kabbalists say you need to burn everything. Going to be the dumbest creature, like worse than the stupidest person in this world. And only when the seed is completely rotten, nothing exists, then a new phase emerges from this complete darkness.
Like decayed.
Yeah, from this decay. So every level is a grave, and from the grave you are being born. You need to die, and you need to give birth on another level. This is not easy on the emotional level. This is where most people fall. Most people fall in Kabbalah not because they don't understand, because they don't have enough greatness of the goal of attainment of the Creator. They didn't attain it through connection with the others, that they will be willing to go through this death and reborn inside, like to feel it, to feel the darkness, the minus, and still holding on until the new plus, the new life are being emerged. This is complicated stuff.
Okay, so that
yeah
wraps us up.
Yeah, we must finish on time.
Yes,
we must
finish on time.
Yeah, Dan told us we must finish on time.
We must finish on time. We have other engagements.
We're gonna finish on time.
Yes, which, I mean, we're ready. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Yeah, I won't be here for 2 weeks,
lesson.
so we'll see what will happen later.
Yeah,
but Dan will be here.
We'll find somebody for 2 weeks, and then I won't be here for a week
and
after
then
you
we
get
won't
back.
be, yeah. So we have like 3 weeks of change in personnel.
But then you will be back together in 4 weeks.
Yeah, but the course will go on.
Yeah. So that's it. That's it for this week. I will see you next week. And as usual, all the regular announcements. I think you have a class on Thursday and on Sunday. So until then, thanks very much.
Yeah,
everybody.
and happy 4th of July. Now
Thank you, Aaron.
Canada is 1st of July. I'm sorry, like Canada is out of
I
consciousness.
actually didn't know
like
that they declared independence.
Yeah,
wasn't sure that
they
they-
don't know that they are declared
They just,
independent.
yeah.
Okay, so happy 1st of July, 4th of July, whatever. Have fun, use it to connect with others, and we'll see you next lesson.
Bye, everybody.